Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back to the show. We are honored to have Mr. John Riggio joining us here. Excited. Our professional of the year as an architect, as a pro tennis player, as an author, and so much more. Hailing today live from, are we in Metuchen, New Jersey, or are we traveling again?
No, I'm right here in Metuchen, New Jersey.
Great. Well, good to see you. For those that may not know, tell us a little bit of your background.
Yes, my name is John Riggio. I usually talk about my architect profession. I have an office in Metuchen, New Jersey, and I service New Jersey, New York, and Pennsylvania. And but years ago, I was a professional pro tennis player, and I have a lot of stories from those years. I think a lot of the stories are involve people you see in the news and on the television every day. So I think today, since I came back from that big trip from Japan and talked to my old sponsors, I could just do like just a quick little uh podcast today, talking about some more things about tennis. And I was just thinking about the tennis sponsors in Japan. And one thing that they did notice years ago about me was I was a very smart player. And they saw how I used to play. And the reason I was also a smart player because after a certain point, I had all of the playing down, my playing skills. I could hit the ball as fast as possible, had the best type of racket made that's legally allowed. And I kept working on playing smarter and smarter, and they noticed that. So that's one thing I remembered about the tennis. And so I think today also I have my book here on the Kindle. And I was also just remembering years ago about the tennis playing. And one interesting thing is I had was saying I was going to think about more about my grandfather. He was involved with some sport sponsorships years ago, and he liked doing that. He also sponsored one player named John Newcomb. So
Okay.
I had previously talked about how he sponsored Arthur Ashe, but he was one of the sponsors for John Newcomb. And he wasn't the only sponsor for John Newcomb. Since John Newcomb was from Australia, he was had a lot of support. The players from Australia always have a lot of support coming here, and they're very well organized. But somehow this whole thing with my grandfather also sponsoring him a little just made me remember years ago, and I had to really think about it. So I think this thing with my grandfather sponsoring some players and helping them out, and he had his license legally with the U.S.
Hmm.
government, was he the whole thing was sort of like in a fog, really, because when they were talking about that, I was remembering little bits and pieces when I was like 4 years old or even younger. It was really amazing. I think some things about that time also were very interesting. Was I was remembering some of the family gatherings that we used to go to. A lot of them were here in New Jersey with some of the relatives living over here. And was that yeah, my father was pretty athletic. In fact, my eldest uncle on that side of the family was telling me some stories about that too. That in fact, my father was very athletic in the family. And since he always went with his father to see the sport players and things like that, he was able to play some tennis with John Newcomb. So now I'm going all the way forward in time when I'm 18 years old. I just turned 18 years old. I'm playing with the adult players. They give me a ranking of 500.
Mm-hmm.
And I meet John Newcomb on the court. He comes there as part of the tour. And he is really officially retired. He told
Yeah.
me that he's older than me. And but he just by chance somehow he remembered the story of my grandfather, and he did play some tennis with my father just for fun. as he was saying the same thing that my father was very athletic. He was able to play pretty good. And then played the match with him, and he was like, "Oh wow, you're really so advanced a player that he couldn't believe what's happening." So he was
Mm-hmm.
sort of happy about that. He could see that I was there and I could really play good. But I think the memories of this thing with my grandfather, my father playing some tennis, was really all in like a fog of just remembering just little things when I was younger. I really didn't think about it too much. It didn't really get to me. Those little memories didn't make a difference, really. You still had to play great. You had
Mm-hmm.
to win the match and everything, play honestly. And but those things were very interesting. Now they're going through all these different things with my book called My Own Court, The Life Story of Tennis Legend John Riggio, that I made remembering all the different memories from years ago. Um, was really, I'm still remembering all these different things. One interesting thing about the whole thing was the grandfather doing this. My father used to go there. It was pretty good. My grandfather was able to make a little money from that. And but in comparison, I was given some comparisons when I was younger too.
Yeah.
One comparison was really the player Babe Ruth.
Oh.
Babe Ruth was really the top player in baseball, not in tennis. But they were just using that as a comparison
Yeah.
that he was really at the top. And I think my sponsors were really similar sponsors to like Babe Ruth. I was really a top player. So I think the amount of money my sponsors were able to make on my playing were so advanced comparatively to my grandfather's days. They were like times of 100 the amount of money. I think I gave an example that my sponsors at one point very definitely they told me that in 2 weeks they were able to make $25 million from my tennis playing, winning really big in tournaments and playing as part of a sport business that's completely legal and they have all the paperwork. And this was really amazing. So I think my playing was really way advanced and was able to play really unbelievable. And so I think my playing was doing so amazing that they couldn't believe it. Uh, I think sometimes when I was playing so amazing, winning, say, maybe 40 matches in a row, some people were getting a little jealous. And then, of course, the idea was to try to maybe make it where I couldn't play, say, maybe I was a robot or something. It was unbelievable. And obviously not. And then maybe they thought I was too advanced to play. And of course, I'm just a regular kid playing. I went to the
But a
doctor
really
and everything.
good
So
player
I was
as a
able,
kid.
yes. So I was able to play some really top tournaments, some of those with superhumans. So then I was able to really win big. And so I think that is one thing that was really amazing was these stories from years ago, remembering my father and my grandfather's stories, and then some of them trickling back with the other players, it's giving me some memories of them. So that was really very interesting. I think just as far as my grandfather doing that whole thing with sponsoring and things like that was very good. From what I was told, that tennis and boxing were very similar type of sports because you're
Hmm.
really playing on your own and you have to win on your own and things like that. So you have to uh, just sort of play and try to win to the top as you can. I think from talking to them, boxing is a little different as far as a sport and isn't really exactly the same. Just some things are similar to it. There are also some things about from what I was told, things about individual baseball players. Maybe they become like entertainers, similar to, say, tennis players. But I didn't really get too much information in depth about things like that. Just concerned myself with really tennis, and what they told me and was playing at the time was uh was really, of course, just the basic things of playing honest, playing the best game, playing the smartest game too. And I think that was really amazing. So then I have the book here. I could share the book again. Let's go through this. Okay, so I think one thing I have here was let's see, screen number two. Okay. So I think on this, in fact, I have one Kindle book that's really from John Newcomb. I've already had it on here. I had already read through this. It's pretty interesting, just remembering some days long ago. And let me just open this up now.
Sure.
Okay, so then this here, let's go all the way to the front. Okay, here we go. So I think just going on this about my father and my grandfather, I did put that information in here in the book. So you start off reading. The one thing I didn't divulge was that he used the name Rizzo, and that's similar to a player name. I think this whole thing with the sports, very similar, was sort of
Mm-hmm.
like entertainment, and he kept a different name on there. And he liked that name. It even ended up going in the census. So he wrote down he's starting to use that name. I think what happened was potentially he didn't die that young, but they didn't get to where maybe the family would use the name Rizzo also. I think just assuming I heard the stories of my father playing some fun tennis there with some of the pros, and that, or really particularly John Newcomb, that so then assuming he would have that same last name Rizzo too at the time. So I think that experience was also, I did have the experience. Different people were involved with pro tennis. They weren't necessarily pro players. And I used to play them just for fun. I used to play maybe one of their consultants and their consultant's son. I would play a match of tennis just for fun with them. They used to set up a time. I used to meet them, play the game of tennis. It was very fun. It was enjoyable tennis. And I think they liked when I could turn up playing the game of tennis too. Because when you're playing with someone, if they, depending on their tennis level, you would sort of play to them. And I think at that young age, uh, they wanted to see me play. They say, show me you know how to play. And I think then I would just play a little harder. I'd just give them, harder serve, some harder shots. And then they go, yeah, they become really impressed with that type of playing. I think some players I played against that you wouldn't believe that were friends was one of them was the author of one of the books that were written for one of the tennis players, and his son was also a tennis. He liked to play tennis, but he wasn't a tennis pro. But he turned out to have worked as a an artist later on. And in just recent times, I was researching all these different names and everything, and I see that he is still working as an artist. And he left the USA. He's living in another country. He's still working as an artist. And I think there was some incidents where he even made the news here. He did some kind of art uh, thing, and it made the news here because he did something involved politics, which was really interesting. This is years later. This guy's his name is let me just verify his name. I have it here. But what's happened is he was an artist, and he used to um make all kinds of different art, and it was very interesting from playing him. And his this particular person, they also had a family relative that was really big in the Olympics. So I think that whole thing, they sort of felt that that Olympic ability sort of carried on to them, that they were pretty good in playing athletics. And I think it was true, playing some just basic fun tennis with them, they were very good. And but so they really liked it when I could turn up the game against them, that they weren't really going to just beat me for fun, that I could really excel at the game. And let me just get this name here. Because what happens, I don't want to say the wrong name. Oh yeah. So that was really George Mendoza, and his son was Ryan Mendoza. So years ago I played with them, and I think Ryan became an artist, and I think he really had at least one big scene, but he left. He's living in Germany now. And but they were very nice. I talked to them years ago and played some tennis with them. So that is really amazing. And I think that the George Mendoza's daughter is also involved with all kinds of interesting things with communications and things like that. But I never got to meet her. So that was really amazing. So there's all kinds of
Yeah.
amazing, interesting people that I was doing things with, and years ago. So that's pretty good. I think years ago, George Mendoza offered to write a book for me. But I think that was so young, I was unconceivable for me to really get it really going somehow with him. But that was very nice. And so he was an author that wrote sport books and all kinds of different things like that. And that was just sort of like, since he was around the different pros, I was able to get to make friends with them, play some friendly games of tennis with them. So that is sort of similar to what was going on with my grandfather and my father. There was something similar to like that. But they, since they were involved with some sports, they were able to just play some fun games of tennis. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that was really interesting. I think the playing those extra games is always really good because it's also within
Oh,
the confines of playing in a pro world. You're playing in a pro world of tennis. And I think that is another interesting thing. You're talking to people, making new friends, things like that. And that was a very good experience. So I think that that is the same similar type of experience. So I was thinking about all kinds of things like that, and I was able to really get an idea of what was happening. So I think I was always doing things like that, playing those type of games, and I think that was really good. So I think at that age also, since I like playing tennis, I could play any number of tennis matches. They could set up matches. I was always available to play those tennis matches. It was a lot of fun. So this here, I just say some things about my
mm-hmm.
grandfather. And in fact, this picture here is really on the mother's side of the family from years ago.
Aw.
This here, so this is, I talk about my father here, that he was able to get some tennis lessons out of that whole thing. And he made a certified 4.5 back then, which is a really excellent player to play 4.5. Then I just talked about my grandfather here a little bit in the book. And so he was doing very good. In fact, my great grandfather did come to America. And from what I was told, he was somewhat stately level, and he had a title also. So he was pretty high up. And I think all those different things helped out my grandfather, Joseph, so he would use the name Joseph Rizzo,
Mm-hmm.
was doing very good. Like anyone coming here really had to get one of those jobs, made a lot of friends over here at the paper mill in New Jersey, and really liked to work his way up, getting into business, having his business in Brooklyn with the whole custom leather shoes that were very expensive back then.
Mm-hmm.
And then also did this whole thing with the tennis and other sports, getting involved with some things like that. So he was doing very good like that. And I show that here in the book. Now, the book, of course, it's about 233 pages. I couldn't really make it 500-page book initially. So I just abbreviated a lot of things in here. Not every little fact is in here about my grandfather and the names and the people that he helped out and things like that. And I think one interesting thing about those times also was the same thing with that tennis center with the green
Hmm.
building and the uh, where they have the US Open, was meeting some problems over there. And that was very interesting. I think I had already said the story that instead of going over to the tennis center to watch tennis, we used to go over to Shea Stadium right across the street and watch the New York Mets. And my father was saying the same kind of thing, but all those different things about how tennis really is in a spectator sport. And that particular location was an area you have to really just watch out for. So the going over to the Shea Stadium and the Mets was very good. Just by chance, I won the lottery at the Shea Stadium watching the Mets when I was a very young kid, and they had me walk out onto the field there, walked out onto the baseball diamond, and they gave me a little gift, which is very nice, and everyone was there. So that was a really very interesting thing when I was young. Funny things used to happen like that. So this is so I told all kinds of interesting stories about that. I was saying also about my heritage a little bit. And the reason why is because years later on Court 33, right there at the National Tennis Center in Flushing, New York, where they played the US Open, there was interesting pressures coming on. They were telling me I need a big sponsor. Then they tell me I need someone to um vouch for me like royalty and
Oh,
really from some a
royalty.
line
Whoa,
of
whoa, whoa. I didn't know this story.
yes, and then from a line of communication, it went all the way to the Prince of Savoy really coming there to my court with his parents and really
Wow.
giving me a knighting.
Ha
And it
ha.
was really very real. And the forces on whoever was questioning this whole thing, I was told by Vitas Gariolitis that they recognized this whole knighting and somehow that was clearing some requirements that they had there. I have no idea what it was all about. It was a very nice experience. I think I turned the whole thing into a very nice experience. I played Sergio Tacchini from Italy. He came there, played a very nice match of tennis, and they all watched the match and were cheering for me. That was really amazing. So I think that was one interesting thing. So that's why this whole thing going back to my grandfather and some things about my heritage I left in there because years later, let me just move ahead in this and let me just show you the some things here. And this is court 33. So this shows the map of the court, and this shows court 33. Over here says court 33, and this court was originally a practice court until I made it my own and they renovated the whole thing. My sponsors put bleachers around it, and it was on television with all kinds of excellent matches. And then from here, I moved to Alley Pond, where they built my own tennis center. So that's when they made that whole tennis center, which started at Alley Pond with that building and everything. So then this here, okay, so this here is really when I show years later, um, that I was knighted here on Court 33. So this amazing Court 33. Unfortunately, Court 33 is just a parking lot these days. They renovated everything and paved over Court 33. But this came about here, and I described that here. Um, so this was really good, and I described the different people like Richard Branson at that time that was able to buy my contract. And that's how this whole thing with the Ali Pond Tennis Center was then made at that point. And then I also talked about my contacts with Clemson University. In 1984, 2 years before I graduated high school, I was accepted into Clemson University to just play tennis. And of course, this was with the recommendation from Robert Cambria, the administrative coach and my administrative coach. And what happened is, since I didn't go there to play at Clemson, in fact, I talked to them and they were backing me on court 33 instead. They were telling me the same kind of thing, that their players, pro players, are really at Clemson, and they always end up coming over to the National Tennis Center because they go to play the different tournaments, and that's usually the center where a lot of the tournaments are. Right here in New York City, they have a lot of the tournaments, and they're gone in different locations. And so a lot of players from around the world, they all come here to New York City to play. There's a few other camps in the US that aren't as large, but they play as in Miami and in California. And that was really some amazing things. So this is what I show here. Let me see if I
And
have the
unfortunately, we're
photograph.
almost out of time. We got to go. We have 1 minute
Oh,
left.
okay, so we'll end it
Thank
at
you.
there. I was just thinking some more amazing stories I could say on another side, but that's in here because then it's going to confuse the story. So I think in this I have, let me see if I have a picture here. Okay, I think that's the only photograph I can find on here. Okay, so then this here is my picture. It's a little fuzzy, but in 1987, this is me here, right there at the National Tennis Center. I have my new sweat top and bottom on that I just bought, and just only didn't have time for a haircut. Otherwise, I'm right there. This is here, and I have some videos of this on my Facebook page called John Riggio Pro Tennis Player. You can see the videos where this photograph is taken from. It's always a lot of fun to remember all these different things, and I'm sure anyone would really enjoy reading this and seeing the photographs and things like that. Is really amazing.
Yep. And it's johnriggio.com, JohnRiggio. And on Facebook, quick, what is the name of the group we can find you at?
Yes, you can see me on Facebook on John Riggio Pro Tennis Player. My business webpage is www.johnriggio.com.
Thank you.
And you could welcome to buy the book. You could buy the book at Barnes and Noble online. You could buy it on Amazon. I have it available in a hardcover, paperback, or ebook.
Thank you, John.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.